Outlander Season 7 has arrived on Blu-ray and DVD, giving you exclusive access to Outlander content. Sit back and enjoy.
The trailer for Outlander Season 8 Episode 2 just changed everything. And if you thought Episode 1 was intense, this next chapter is clearly preparing us for something much darker, something much bigger. So let's talk about what's really going on here. First of all, the biggest thing that stood out to me is Jamie. The moment you hear those words, he's going to war, you just know that nothing is going to stay the same after this. And the way the trailer presents it, it doesn't feel like a choice. It feels inevitable, like no matter what he does, he's being pulled into something that was always meant to happen. Now, if you remember what we learned in Episode 1, especially from that book Frank wrote, we already know that Jamie's fate is supposed to be sealed at some point in history, and that's exactly what makes this so terrifying. Because now, every step he takes toward this war feels like a step closer to that fate. But at the same time, we also know this show loves to twist things. So the real question is Jamie walking into his death, or is he about to change history completely? And I don't know about you guys, but the way he looks in the trailer, calm, determined, almost too sure of himself, it gives me chills. Because that's the Jamie we know, the one who never backs down, the one who would sacrifice everything for the people he loves. But this time, that strength might actually be what puts him in the most danger. Then there's Claire, and you can immediately feel that something is off. She knows what's coming, maybe not every detail, but enough to understand that this war isn't just another battle, it's something personal. Something that could take Jamie away from her for good. And the way she looks at him in those quick moments, it's not just worry, it's fear. The kind of fear that comes when you already know how the story is supposed to end. But here's the thing, Claire has changed history before. We've seen it. So even though everything is pointing toward this tragic outcome, there's still that small hope that maybe, just maybe, this time will be different. Still, hope doesn't make this any less painful to watch. Because every second of that trailer feels like a countdown. And let's not forget what's happening around them. The ridge is no longer safe. After what we saw at the end of Episode 1, with those men hanging, and that terrifying message carved into them, it's clear that something much bigger is happening in the background. This isn't random violence. This is organized. And if Jamie is heading into war, it might be connected to all of this. Which brings me to something that really caught my attention. The tension, not just between enemies, but within the community itself. There's this feeling that people don't trust each other anymore. And when that starts happening, things fall apart very quickly. So while Jamie is preparing for war, there's also a different kind of battle happening at home. And honestly, that might be just as dangerous. Because when everything starts breaking at once, that's when the real chaos begins. Now let's talk about what might be the most heartbreaking part of this entire trailer. Because it's not just about war, it's about who we might lose because of it. The moment I saw Marsali in that promo, screaming, completely shattered, I just knew something terrible is about to happen. And I don't think that scene is there just for shock value. It feels very specific, very personal. And if you ask me, all signs are pointing toward Fergus. I mean, let's be honest for a second. Fergus has been walking a very dangerous path for a while now. The things he writes, the ideas he spreads, they're not something people in power would just ignore. And we already saw Jamie warning him about this. He literally told him to be careful, to stop before it's too late. But Fergus being Fergus, he didn't listen. And that's exactly what makes this so painful. Because it's not like he doesn't know the risks. He does. He just chooses to stand by what he believes in, no matter the consequences. And I kind of respect that. I really do. He's the kind of man who won't stay silent even if it costs him everything. But at the same time, that might be exactly what gets him killed. And if that happens, I honestly don't know how Marsali is going to survive that. The way she looked in the trailer, it wasn't just sadness. It was the kind of pain that completely breaks a person. And we've seen her go through so much already. Losing Fergus like that, especially in such a brutal way, it would change everything for her. Now, I'm not saying this is 100% confirmed, but the way the trailer is edited, the emotions it shows, the direction everything is going, it just feels like the story is building up to a huge loss. And Fergus fits right into that narrative. But here's where things get even more complicated. But the question is, will he make that choice before it's too late? And let's not forget, emotions are running high for everyone right now. Not just William. There are relationships shifting, breaking, and maybe even forming in the middle of all this chaos. Because that's what this show does so well. Even when everything is falling apart, it still finds a way to focus on the human side of things. And that's exactly why this situation feels so intense, because it's not just about war or danger, it's about people and the choices they make when everything is on the line. Now let's talk about something that might not seem as big at first, but trust me, it could change everything. And that's the growing tension at the Ridge. After everything we saw in episode 1, especially those brutal killings, it's clear that Fraser's Ridge is no longer the safe place it once was. And in this trailer, you can really feel that shift. There's this constant sense of fear, like something is about to happen at any moment. And what makes it even worse is the uncertainty, because the danger isn't just coming from the outside anymore, it might already be inside. The new tenants, the Cunninghams, I still don't trust them. I mean, we barely know anything about them, and yet somehow they're already in the middle of everything. Mama Cunningham especially gives off a very strange vibe. The way she talks, the way she carries herself, it just feels off. Like she knows more than she's letting on. And I don't know about you guys, but whenever a character feels like that in this show, it's never a good sign. Now, I'm not saying they're directly behind those violent acts, but I also wouldn't be surprised if they're connected in some way. Maybe they're hiding something. Maybe they're running from something. Or maybe they brought the danger with them. Because, let's be honest, things started getting worse right after they arrived. Now let's move on to something that feels a little quieter on the surface, but might actually be just as important, if not more. And that's William. I don't know about you guys, but his situation is getting more complicated with every episode. And in this trailer, you can clearly see that he's still struggling with everything he just found out. Learning that Jamie is his real father, that's not something you just accept overnight. But at the same time, the way he's handling it, it's frustrating. I mean, no one is forcing him to choose. No one is taking anything away from him. He still has Lord John. He still has his life, his name. And now he also has the truth. But instead of trying to understand it, he's pushing everyone away. And that's where things start to get messy. Because this isn't just about him anymore. The tension between him and Jamie is very real. And the trailer makes that even more obvious. You can feel that distance, that discomfort. Like two people who are connected by blood, but don't know how to act around each other. And honestly, that's dangerous in its own way. Because in a time like this, when everything is falling apart, the last thing they need is to be divided. But what really caught my attention is how this might connect to the war. Because think about it, William is not just anyone. He's part of the British Army. And if Jamie is heading into a conflict that involves them, then this is no longer just emotional. This becomes a direct confrontation. Father and son, possibly standing on opposite sides. And if that happens, I don't even know how the story comes back from that. At the same time, there's also a chance that this war could be the thing that changes William, that forces him to grow up, to stop running from the truth and finally face who he really is. Because right now, he's stuck in between two worlds, and sooner or later, he's going to have to choose where he stands. And finally, let's talk about the one thing that is quietly controlling everything behind the scenes, the future. Because no matter how much action we see, no matter how intense things get, it all comes back to what Claire and Brianna now know. That book, that one detail about Jamie's fate, it's like a shadow hanging over every single moment in this trailer. Now every decision feels different. Every time Jamie talks about fighting, about doing what's right, it doesn't just sound brave anymore. It sounds dangerous, because we know where this path is supposed to lead, and that's what makes this episode feel so heavy even before it's released. But here's the part that really got me thinking. What if this war is the exact moment history is supposed to change? Because we've seen it before. The timeline isn't as fixed as it seems. Small actions, unexpected choices, they can shift everything. And Jamie is not someone who just follows fate. He creates his own path. So what if this time, instead of walking toward his death, he's actually walking toward rewriting it? I mean, it would explain a lot. It would explain why the show is building so much tension around this moment. Why everything feels connected. Fergus, the ridge, William, the violence, the war. It all feels like it's leading to one turning point, one moment that decides what happens next. And honestly, that's what makes this so exciting. Because we don't really know what's going to happen. Yes, we have clues. Yes, we have theories. But at the end of the day, this story still has the power to surprise us. And that's exactly why waiting for the next episode feels impossible. We're not just waiting to see what happens. We're waiting to see if fate wins, or if Jamie Fraser changes it forever. And something tells me this episode is going to give us that answer. We still have a little time before it drops, and there's a lot more to break down.